Yeah, hi friends, it's Harpreet Singh from Singh Law Firm. So today I want to continue with the homestead discussion we were having. So it's basically, again to recap it, it's basically a protection for your primary residence equity because you just, I think, invest so much in your primary residence, and the state law provides you to get some protection over it from outside creditors or involuntary lien holders, so you can, I think, save those investments. So today I want to talk about the declared homestead, specifically about the declaration which we talked about. So to again recap a little bit about the homestead, so there were two types of homestead. One was statutory, which was like an automatic homestead protection which you get on your primary residence, and another was the declared homestead, which was basically you have to file a declaration with the county indicating that you are living in this particular house and this is your primary residence. And so with that you get additional protection. Even the judgment creditor cannot attach a lien on your house if suppose you don't have enough equity left to pay that creditor. So even a lien cannot get attached, but in default a lien can get attached. But if there is not enough funds left after the sale of the house, so in that situation that sale cannot be conducted. So these are the protection provided under these two types. So I want to talk about the declared because obviously in statutory you're just automatically getting it, so there is nothing you have to do. So if you are living in that particular house and you're claiming it that this is my primary residence, so you already get that statutory exemption. So let's see what is needed in order to file the declaration with the county. What needs to be included in that declaration? So first of all, obviously you have to mention your name in the declaration. As you have probably seen, I think many of you, a grant deed or some kind of a deed document which transfer title, you have mentioned that it's a similar document, or you can also mention, I think, in some piece of Word document, just your name, and you mention the description of the property, obviously an address. Legal description would be good, but it's fine. I think you can just mention so and so street, number, street name, obviously your city, then state, and then your zip code. So the next thing you have to mention is a statement, which is more important, that this declared homestead, that this house is your principal dwelling and you are using it as your primary residence. So that's most important because, as you have, I think, remember, I have mentioned in the first video, that's one of the requirement. And another statement you have to mention is that that whatever you are mentioning in this statement is true and correct, and this homestead, that is declared homestead, will remain in future as your primary residence, and you, or at least you intend to use it as your primary residence. So these are like 2-3 basic statements you have to mention in this particular document. Again, then at the end of the document you have to sign it. If you are declared homestead, even your spouse can sign it if your spouse has an interest in this declared homestead, because during the marriage, even if without including your spouse's name, still your spouse has this community property interest, so your spouse can also sign it, or any other person. If there is a guardian, if this property is in the name of minor, a guardian can sign it, or a person who has a power of attorney, and obviously that person has to mention that so and so document provides the power of attorney to that person to sign on behalf of the homestead claimant. So this is about homestead, how you can create it, and how you can, I think, just record it in order to get this protection. So let's see how you can abandon this declared homestead exemption. Just remember, when I'm talking about abandonment, I'm not talking about anything about the statutory homestead. Obviously you can also abandon a statutory homestead, and some of the ways to abandon it, it will overlap with the declared homestead. So in order to abandon a declared homestead, The first thing is obviously you file another document like any declaration to abandon the declared homestead. You just file it, you just mention again your name, your description, and then you will just mention, okay, so and so property, and just abandoning the homestead exemption on this property. And you were thinking like, why someone will why someone will just abandon it, such a good protection? Well, sometime it's not required, but sometime you want to get homestead declared homestead exemption on another property. Probably you just don't want it, or maybe just tenants start living there, and you want homestead exemption on another property. So you just file that document. It's not required, but just to be clear cut. So in future, if suppose there is litigation, you can specifically show that, okay, means I have filed this abandonment, so my intent was not to protect that property but this property. So next way is to file a new declared homestead. So if you file for suppose you have already filed for property A declared homestead, now you file a declared homestead for property B, any previously homestead declaration filed, it just automatically get abandoned. It's always good to be clear, but still by operation of law it get abandoned. So you don't have to mention that previous, but it's always good to mention, so there is no, I think, issue later on, or maybe the judgment credit can raise the issue, oh, the homestead doesn't apply to this property, you already have other homestead. So it's always good to be clear, but you don't have to do it, it's automatic abandonment. So the third way to abandon the declared homestead is the adverse possession. Adverse possession, it's a very big topic. Obviously in future I can I think have a series of videos on that. So adverse possession, it's basically someone is just living at your property for a particular amount of time, just holding to the world that this is my property, I am the owner of it, and he or she is paying taxes on it. And for certain number of years, in California it's 5 years. If someone does that and they get title through that adverse possession, obviously even if you have filed a homestead declaration on that property, someone can just take adverse possession and it's no longer your homestead. And the final way to abandon the declared homestead is, again, you have to, I think logically here. If you, I think, cannot meet one of the factors which are most important, because if it's not your primary residence and if you didn't intend to live at that house as your primary residence, then you don't get benefit of it, because the main benefit is on primary residences. So the government wants that people should live at their houses, they have spent so much money and investment, and because of that we are providing it. But if you just file a declared homestead and you are giving it for rent, you should not get benefit of that, and that's again abandonment. If you suppose give it for a lease, you have a filed declared homestead and you just I think you're not using for intended purpose, then obviously you just lose that protection. So this is for the declared homestead, and in the next video I will talk about what have been the recent changes in terms of the homestead amounts. And thanks again for watching this video. Thank you, and I will just see you in the next video.